Lay out that choice, Mr. President. Make it perfectly clear. You'll need to do that most every hour of every day for 246 days. It is Monday, March 4th, and there are 246 days remaining until the American people will decide who is the next president of the United States. And a quick reminder this morning, remember, subscribe to the Warning YouTube channel. 246 days. Yet each day will not unfurl equally. Each will not hold the same importance. Some weeks determine the course. There are events that occur during the course of the presidential campaign that are unequal, that shine hot lights of attention on the choice, on the candidates, that call for the American people to examine them with fresh eyes, with a new look. They are few and far between. For example, President Biden will speak to 3 huge audiences during the course of an election year. Incredibly, the first opportunity, the Super Bowl, he took a pass on and denied himself the opportunity to speak to upwards of 100 million Americans assembled for the largest broadcast in world history. The second opportunity is the one the president has this week, the State of the Union address. He will speak before the United States Congress for however long he wishes, directly to a global audience. We'll talk more about that speech in a second. And the last speech that the president will give, barring a national catastrophe of some type, where he must address the nation under extraordinary circumstances, will be the speech he makes accepting the Democratic nomination in July in Chicago. After that, there are the debates, and then there is the election. These moments when the commander-in-chief or his opponent are able to capture the attention of the entire electorate for the purposes of saying something consequential are rare, and they must be taken advantage of. What is the State of the Union? Is it really strong? Is it great? Are the people happy, optimistic, grateful, contented about the economy, satisfied with their choice for president, comfortable with the direction of the most important institutions in the country? Do they trust them? Do they admire them? Do they revere them? What all of the polling shows is the American people are angry, discontented, distrusting, and profoundly unhappy with the choice before them for President of the United States between Donald Trump and President Biden. Look at these incredible numbers. More than 70% of the country is acutely worried about the president's age and his capacity to perform. Look at these numbers regarding Trump. They too are astounding. 6 out of 10 Americans doubt the mental competency of the Democratic and Republican nominees to be for the presidency. In the third decade of the 21st century, as the world is spiraling, moving towards an abyss, the chances of a global war, once unthinkable, loom ever closer. The American people are told over and over again on cable news programs that they should be celebrating the economy. They should be grateful that Joe Biden is Franklin Roosevelt. The American people don't see it. They don't feel it. And trust me when I say this, lecturing them and telling them they're wrong triggers defiance, not abeyance. Currently, Donald Trump who led an insurrection and faces 91 felony counts, is leading President Biden outside the margin of error, according to the New York Times Siena poll. The president is in a precarious political position. So the question at hand is, what must he do? The first and most important thing to recognize about the 2024 election is this: it is a choice. And in the end, it is a binary choice. But participation or non-participation often is not accumulated as counting by the pundits. What do I mean by that? If somebody who voted for President Biden in the last election decides not to vote for him in this election, goes from a voter for Biden to a non-participant, that loss of a vote accumulates in the total in an election in the last instance that was won by 40,000 votes across 3 states. Every vote matters. And so the Trump coalition, by definition, is one that is comprised of 3 core groups: true believers, cynics and opportunists like Lindsey Graham, and the indifferent, who look at both sides and say a pox on both of them, without the ability to see or to realize that overwhelmingly the threat to our way of life has emerged from one of the 2 political parties, not both. What is it that President Biden needs to say? What is it that the country needs to hear? What is it about this moment that matters? If we are to say this is the most consequential election in American history, then it stands to reason there should be able to be an articulation about what is so consequential about it. Trump is explicitly running on a campaign platform of vengeance and retribution. His words have caused death. They incited an insurrection. He has promised mass deportations and the police state to deliver on the promise. He's called for what will become American concentration camps. He's called for complete and total bans on the lifeblood of the country, legal immigration. He has encouraged a Russian dictator to invade NATO territory, triggering World War III, or perhaps a wider European war. But nothing good will come from it. He has promised lawlessness and corruption. He is the greatest taker and demagogue in American history. Perhaps it should be talked about. What is American fascism? How does it relate to European fascism in the 20th century? What danger does it pose in the 21st? And the third thing the president must talk about are the restrictions on American liberty, the reduction of the notion and idea and ideals of freedom, a rescission of the civil rights movement, a subjugation of women, the ability of men to legislate what a woman can and cannot do with their body, what a husband and wife or a woman on her own decides to do with a pregnancy, is radical, revanchist, and profoundly dangerous. These policies fall hard on poor women, poor white women, poor black women. And the question that has to be asked is democracy going to be sustained in America for all people, or just the people at the top who gain favor with the leadership? Because that's not democracy. That's oligarchy. That's what Russia is, not what America must be, can be, has been, and will be again. When the president speaks, there are urgent issues at hand: opportunity, liberty, security. He must speak directly. He must speak clearly, and hopefully with brevity. The state of the American Union is troubled. The country is divided. This should not be an hour for happy talk, but rather a declaration that Americans must engage and recommit to some central ideas that we have forgotten. Lessons have been learned at a terrible cost and a terrible price. All over the world, there are American cemeteries filled with young people. Most of them had never gone far from their hometowns, but they died not to conquer territory, not for aggression, but to liberate lands from an idea. The idea is a form of slavery that holds that the state or an emperor or a leader is above the law, above what is right and wrong. When leaders with malice in their heart take control and taste power, it corrupts them profoundly. It's what's happened to Donald Trump. It's what's happened to Xi Jinping and to Vladimir Putin, to all of the presidents for life, to all of the aspirants to thousand-year empires. They become overcome by fantasy, by delusion of their power, their longevity, their necessity. And when it happens, the whole world can suffer because the whole world can burn. Perhaps President Biden should think about communicating what's at stake as clearly and directly as John Kennedy might have, as urgently as Franklin Roosevelt might have. It's not too late to take the hour, 20-minute draft by committee and tear it to pieces and to rewrite something that matters in a moment of great urgency ahead of a profound choice. Lay out that choice, Mr. President. Make it perfectly clear. You'll need to do that most every hour of every day for 246 days, because the cost of failure is the price of losing liberty in the United States to the greatest menace that it has faced since fascism and communism in the 20th century, and since the Confederacy and slavery in the 19th. Losing is not an option. Thank you for listening to my political commentary. If you like what you heard today, please also consider subscribing to The Warning daily newsletter on Substack.